Hello, I am Tarık Toros. Welcome to What's Happening in Turkey. The world was watching Turkey this week, a historic turning point. At the start of this week, a major story dominated headlines around the world, flagged as breaking news by global media outlets. On the 12th of May 2025, the Kurdistan Workers' Party, known by its acronym PKK, officially announced that it was disbanding and ending its armed struggle, bringing one of the world's longest running insurgencies to a close. Since its inception in 1978, the Turkish state has designated the PKK as a terrorist organization. That classification is shared by the European Union, the United States, NATO, and the United Kingdom. In the Middle East, countries such as Iran and Israel have also long kept the PKK on their terror lists. This latest move wasn't just a seismic shift for Turkey. It sent ripples through the regional and international political landscape. But how did we get here? Let's go back to where this momentous turn began. The beginning of the end, a radical statement from within the establishment. On the 22nd of October 2024, a surprising statement shook Turkish politics. Devlet Bahçeli, leader of the ultra-nationalist Nationalist Movement Party and a key figure in Turkey's ruling coalition, said the following: "If Öcalan's isolation ends, he should come to parliament, speak at the DAM party meeting, and declare that terrorism is over and the group is finished." For a politician known for his hardline stance, this was unexpected. It suggested that after years of deadlock, a new political calculus was emerging. Still, the question remained: how did the PKK start? What trajectory did it follow? And why now, after decades of war, has it chosen to dissolve itself? At the center of this story stands one man, Abdullah Öcalan. Who is Abdullah Öcalan? The man behind the PKK. To understand the significance of the PKK's disbanding, we must understand the origins and the man who founded it. On the morning of the 16th of February 1999, then Prime Minister Bülent Ecevit appeared on Turkish television and announced, as of 3 a.m., the leader of the separatist terror organization PKK, Abdullah Öcalan, is in Turkey. Öcalan had been captured in Nairobi, Kenya, in a covert international operation led by Turkish intelligence, with tacit support from several nations. On the plane returning to Turkey, Öcalan reportedly told officials that he was ready to serve the country, prompting cautious optimism. Born in 1949 in Şanlıurfa, southeastern Turkey, Öcalan studied in Ankara and briefly worked as a civil servant. In 1970s, he became deeply influenced by leftist and Marxist ideologies. By 1978, he had founded the PKK in Diyarbakır. Initially, the group engaged in targeted killings, especially of tribal leaders and perceived collaborators. In 1979, Öcalan moved to Syria, formed alliances with Palestinian militant factions, and set up training camps in Lebanon's Bekaa Valley, transforming the PKK into a guerrilla force. On the 15th of August 1984, the PKK launched coordinated armed attacks in southeastern Turkey, officially beginning its violent campaign against the Turkish state. While Öcalan became a demonized figure in Western Turkey, seen as a baby killer, in many Kurdish communities he was hailed as a symbol of resistance. In 1998, under Turkish pressure, Öcalan was expelled from Syria. In 1999, he was captured and imprisoned on İmralı Island, where he remains today. As his trial, Öcalan issued an apology and said he was ready to help find a peaceful solution. He was sentenced to death, but in 2002, this was commuted to life imprisonment under Turkey's EU-aligned legal forms. While in prison, Öcalan gradually abandoned Marxism-Leninism and embraced ideas like democratic modernity and local self-governance, inspired in part by libertarian socialist theorist Murray Bookchin. Between 2013 and 2015, during Turkey's peace process, Öcalan played a central role. Kurdish politicians and state officials visited him in prison for talks. But the process collapsed in 2015, leading to urban warfare in Kurdish regions and complete isolation for Öcalan. For nearly a decade, he disappeared from public discourse. That changed in late 2024. From isolation to influence, Öcalan's letter and the collapse of armed struggle. After years of silence, something shifted. A delegation from the DEM party, the pro-Kurdish political party in parliament, was granted access to Öcalan on İmralı Island. They returned on the 27th of February 2025 with a handwritten letter from Öcalan. Although the prison authorities recorded him reading it aloud on camera, the footage was never released. Instead, DEM officials shared the content publicly. The message was historic. In the letter, Öcalan declared that the socialist ideologies of the 1970s had failed. He rejected nationalism, federalism, and armed autonomy as outdated frameworks. There is no solution outside democracy, he wrote. He called on all Kurdish armed groups, starting with the PKK, to lay down their weapons and engage in peaceful politics. This marked a major ideological shift, not only for the PKK, but for the entire Kurdish movement. In early May 2025, the PKK convened a historic congress in northern Iraq. Between 5 and 7 May, the group officially declared its disbanding, citing Öcalan's letter as the moral and political foundation. In an unprecedented twist, a man who had been in total isolation for 26 years sent a message that ended a 40-year insurgency. A milestone in the Kurdish conflict, and new political questions. After the disbanding, Öcalan released a brief statement. I respectfully welcome the decisions made at this historic Congress. Although the logistics of disarmament are still unclear, early signs suggest cautious support across Turkey's political spectrum. Even within the ruling AKP, there is agreement that the disarmament should be completed within months. A judicial reform package is now under discussion. Key provisions may include releasing elderly and terminally ill prisoners, making prison review boards more transparent, ensuring prison policies comply with international human rights standards. But deeper questions are emerging. The European Court of Human Rights has ruled that Öcalan, after 25 years in prison, is entitled to a right to hope under international law. This means he must have a chance for parole or sentence review. Yet Turkey's Justice Minister stated that Öcalan's case is not on the table, fueling new legal and political tensions both at home and abroad. Unfinished business, disarmament, justice, and reconciliation. As of now, Ankara expects the PKK to fully disarm and for its leaders to exit northern Iraq. On the other hand, PKK-linked groups have called for improved prison conditions for long-term Kurdish political prisoners, the release of prominent Kurdish figures, including Selahattin Demirtas, jailed since 2016, broader reforms addressing cultural rights and political representation. Turkey has clearly entered a new era, but several crucial questions remain. Will Öcalan's prison conditions improve in line with human rights standards? Will there be a broader amnesty or reconciliation process? Can this peace hold amid political polarization and nationalist resistance? What is certain is this. For the first time in its history, the PKK voluntarily laid down its arms. It's a decision that will not only reshape Turkey's Kurdish question, but also alter the power dynamics across the Middle East. And one figure, once feared, once forgotten, is again at the center. Abdullah Öcalan and the question of whether democracy can, at last, replace violence. I am Tarık Toros. Thanks for listening to What's Happening in Turkey. See you next week.